Hello everyone and welcome back. It's been 2 weeks since I did a video, which I think that was the live stream that I did about my anniversary. So today we are going to be covering all of these books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 issues. So it's a big stack. Uh, and we'll be revisiting Action Comics number 1000, talking about the last story, which is the Brian Michael Bendis story that is introducing us to part of his run, one of the elements of his run. And of course, I'm going to complement that with this book, Destination Number Zero, which I'll give an overview of the three stories found here, plus the Bendis story specifically. But before we do that, yesterday, Friday, May 11th, was my birthday. So I got some money as a birthday gift from my dad, and I decided to pick up two special things to gift. So first, I'm going to this is Green Lantern number 46 from 1993, which is a tie-in to the Reign of the Superman story that was running in the Superman books at the time. The third act of the whole Death and Return of Superman. This is a rare, tying issue. And it obviously had to tie in because it deals with both Coast City, which was blown up by the Cyborg and Mongol, and of course it had to tie in with it. And actually, this issue takes place prior to Superman number 82, which concluded the whole reign of the Superman, the Death and Return of Superman. So this was like an issue that is not necessarily obligatory reading for the whole arc and the whole story overall, but it does add context to the opening of Superman number 82. So I could either live with it or without it, and it wouldn't really affect the reading experience. Just adds a little more context to that to the whole overall story. And then I picked up this. This is Saga Volume 2. So I picked up Volume 1, I believe, early last year. In fact, yeah, that was one of the last few things that I bought before I had to go on a unforeseeable break from buying comics. So I kind of gave it a I think I thought too much about picking this book up. I really wanted something special, so I kind of went through the whole DC trades, some image I didn't pick up. I wanted to pick up Paper Girls, the latest volume, because I missed the last arc, and there are like a few. I got like the beginning of the last arc, but then issues 17 through 20, I think at one point they had 18, 19, and 20. I said I'd probably pick it up later. And I didn't only have 18 to 19, so I thought, well, if I have to buy that arc in trade form, I would do it. But I finally decided to just continue reading the earlier stuff from Saga, which I'm finding quite enjoyable. It does show that the whole that how well written this series is, because it works both, it works three ways: as individual issues, as arcs, story arcs, and in the overall long form storytelling. And yeah, so well, that kind of brings us to an unexpected back issue, which I bought on a new comic book day. So I actually picked up the new books on Wednesday afternoon. And so I picked up issue 51 of Saga. I thought I'd actually missed it, because when I went to the shop the day it came out, I did not see a single issue, so I thought I missed it. But on your comic book day, I went to check out if I wanted to pick something else besides my the new books. The new books, and I finally found it. So it it's it's a nice issue. I don't want to make this video too long because it's gonna be long enough. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Glad I actually picked it up again. One of the another. If you read this book, you know what happened. So I'm not gonna go into too much detail. But yeah, uh, really great. Give me a second. Okay, sorry. Um, no. Sorry, I thought I missed the book, but I actually, yeah, there we go. So, next up, The Flash. So, going back a couple of weeks back, I picked up Flash 45, which is the first Flash issue I picked up in a while. I actually picked it up because of what happens at the end, which is Wally West meets Iris again for the very first time again. And we get this really great final page. Um, this page here, this page right here, and the final page here, where Wally and Iris remember absolutely everything. And when I mean everything, I mean their whole pre-New 52 pre-Flashpoint story. So that's what got me curious picking it up. This is the aftermath of the last story arc, and of an after math issue of a longer storyline. Williamson did a really great job of doing this sort of. He's really good at doing this sort of done in one issues, because it told me everything I needed to know of what happened, in the last storyline. So I get an idea of what happened before, so I don't feel lost. And it moves the story forward. So most of the issue does deal with cleaning up, what aftermath issues usually do, which is sort of doing the cleanup of all of the mess that happened before. But the main part of it is, first, Barry and Iris really getting to have a little talk after she did learn that he was a Flash, and he really kept that part from her. So when when the Reverse Flash showed him showed Iris secret, revealed his secret, she was really hurt, and that broke their relationship for a while. So it deals with that, and of course, Wally shows up. They hug, and then this this whole flashback comes. We got even impulse there, everything. So uh like I said, a really good issue. Even though he picks up after the end of a story arc, I don't really feel like I have to buy the back issues to understand what's going on here. um, so this week I actually picked up issue 46, which in part focuses on Zoom, Hunter Zolomon, and this is really a story narrated. This issue is really narrated by Zoom. It's also dealing with the whole memories fading back into Wally, and it's really messing up with his head. It's very painful. So he's going through various stud. People are really just studying him, trying to find the cause uh, of all these fractured memories. Uh, Funny thing though is he does remember things that aren't even there, like the Flash Museum, for example. It's in the location, but it's not there, and yet you know to him it's there, and it's very real. So of course this is the prelude to the Flash War, which is the next big storyline that's been teased for quite some time now. Let me get the Action Comic Special number one. Three stories. The first one's done by exiting writer Dan Jurgens which deals with Luthor. So we got a Lex Luthor from the future that shows up and starts, tormenting Superman. Uh, of course, Superman suspects, his Luthor from the present, but we see it's like this really old, decrepit, very bitter Lex Luthor who wants to really just destroy everything. In the end, they're able to stop. Superman is able, with the help of our Lex Luthor, of the present Lex Luthor, stop the future Lex Luthor's rampage, but not before he actually dies and blows up his suit. He blows up in his suit. Very angry, bitter Luthor, who actually had cancer. So maybe my big speculation that maybe it was the pre Flashpoint Luthor, because that Luthor had cancer because of the kryptonite ring he used. Though if we go to the cloning part, back in the 90s, where that body died, but his body was transferred to a clone body, it really can be the same Luthor, and I think they sort of took that away. But anyway, so this is supposed to be a Luthor from the future, who was your typical Lex Luthor. Then we have a story by Mark Russell of he did, of course, Mark Russell from Flintstones, the current Snagglepuss mini series, Prez, who has I mean, if you know the story, this takes place during the time before Luther became president. So he's in the correspondence dinner, right? And so Clark starts, kind of doing the totally, but the humorous part of the dinner, right? So he starts poking fun at the Justice League, and then he goes to Luthor. So if you know the story about Seth Meyers' appearance in the correspondence dinner where he actually roasted Trump, and that supposedly made Trump run for office, it's here. I mean, that's the whole basis of the of the story. Like, that's the main plot. We have a Luther that reflects on his life, but once he gets Clark gets into the roasting part of it, he decides to run for office, which gave us the President Luthor storyline in the early 2000s. And it finally ends with a story by Max Landis, without by Francis Manapul. A nice, it's a Christmas story actually, where I don't know if you could call it a story. I don't know. It's about, so Lois' car is in an accident, so she loved that car, and she's like totally depressed about it. So of course they go on a Christmas trip, which so I'm trying to remember it. I wrote it. So she's like really upset about the car, and at the end, Clark just gives her the recovers the seat of the car, because Lewis said she really liked that car. He had it for a very long time. That's pretty much it. Of course, Superman stops some scientist who start robbing, and Superman just gives him of course he arrests him, but he says that he should really straighten his life. Yeah, not much there. It's a really short story, and it doesn't really feel like an actual story. So next up, we're gonna do with the Terrifics first. So this is the third part of the current storyline. They're still really dealing with the aftermath of them being bonded and unable to separate for more than a few miles, actually. So it's pretty much just them dealing. Then we get this sort of interlude with, in a small town, sort of metamorpho type monster shows up. It's actually like speaking in Egyptian glyphs and stuff like that, ancient Egyptian glyphs. And then, they're just, like I said, they're dealing with it. And, the forcible action sequence, we get them fighting this war wheel that actually was built by Simon Stagg. He's pretty mad about them destroying the tech, but actually shows them working as a team. We get like the little, like I said, we get uh, like little references to the Fantastic Four, like here. Of course, the Metamorpho monster that shows up is sort of like, kind of a reference to the Fantastic Four #1. Uh, so I'm still entertained by this story, by this book. There's Mr. Trevor still dealing with the Tom Strong mystery. Still entertaining. A lot of talking, which is fine. But the action sequence just seems kind of forced. Like suddenly they have to deal with this machine that shows out of nowhere and turns out it was built by Stag. Guess somebody started it working, so there's something a mystery there as well. But it's sort of, at least to me, it felt like you have to have an action sequence to have a um, a story. But it's still fun, which is not something I can say about this series. So yeah, Mira Queen of Atlantis issue 3, a real big disappointment for me, because it's still not focusing on Mira and her mission. It's still all about Ocean Master. So last issue, Ocean Master and Mira were fighting. So it really picks up there. We open up with a few glimpses of Mira's past, but pretty much the story really begins here, just as he's about to kill her. His fiance and her son show up and stop Orm from killing her, and so both stories now sort of converge. But everything that happens really happens because of Ocean Master and his story, not so much Mira. The whole deal of this thing, it's supposed to be about Mira. It's not there yet. And I said that the whole motivation for this story is still based on Orm, because Orm's fiance girlfriend actually convinces Orm to team up with Mira to try to help Atlantis. And so because of her, Orm agrees, Mira agrees, and so they go to Sebel, Mira's home kingdom, where she's been exiled since failing to kill King Arthur in Aquaman all those years ago, to ask for help. So hopefully issue 4 will be more about Mira, because so far everything's been about Orm, about Ocean Master. Also, I don't think we're gonna have a clean ending for this series. This sort of feels like it could have been an arc within the Aquaman book, because something is going to go into the Aquaman book. Probably the one that gets closure would be Orm. He may stay on the land, or he may join the fight in Atlantis. But so far, at least that the Mira part, it's still very disappointing, because it's really not about her at all. Everything has been focused and moved by the Ocean Master, by the Orm storyline, which, so in short, the protagonist is the supporting character in her own story. finally, destination number zero. So we get three stories. So the Batman story, the Joker story, that I thought was a bizarre. Like I didn't get the point. I mean, I know the Joker's kind of crazy, but like the whole thing just for me it was bizarre. I mean, I didn't see any point in it in the story. Just he goes to some random guy's house and has him kidnapped in his own home, expecting an invitation to Batman and Catwoman's wedding. Like that's like what the hell was that all about? Uh, you know, you know, it was like it really made no sense to me. Anyways, like it didn't really even feel like it was bizarre. I didn't really like it that much. The art by Clayman though, really nice. Though at certain points, actually made the Joker look a little bit like the Jared Leto version of the character from the movies, from the Suicide Squad movie. More than you've seen it. Well, you know what I'm talking about. Um, but yeah, I mean, I really like the art. Then I'm gonna skip the Superman one because that's gonna be in the at the end. So then we got the No Justice Prelude, which is more like not much of a prelude because you've read. I didn't even pick up No Justice number one. Maybe I will if I'm tempted enough. Uh, but it just really introduces you to the teams that are formed. Uh, they're handling various threats. That's pretty much it. We get this really nice sequence with Green Arrow and Supergirl, which is the part I like the most. And we see the Tate is showing up, but it's pretty much just an introduction to the teams. It's like it doesn't serve as a prelude to anything, just introducing the various systems. If it was a proper prelude, we would have seen more about the villains coming to Earth and Brainiac finding out about them, rather than just already have the various systems being introduced. Then the Superman story by Brian Michael Bendis, art by the legendary Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. So, like the story in Action 1000, we are introduced just not enough of a tease of the second part of what Man of Steel is going to be about, plus some stuff that might be coming down the line as well. So we kind of start with Perry addressing the Daily Planet about but telling them that he's only going to accept stories about Superman as news stories, nothing about what he could do. No baseless rumors, just the facts. Superman did this, this, and that's good to be reported. Which it's very much what Bendis kind of set out to do when he decided to write Superman, which is, as it's been described, or could be described as everything that is against Batman v Superman, which was everybody freaked out about Superman and what he could do, and rather than seeing what he does, right? So Batman v Superman was really about people, being afraid of this very powerful alien being. So judging him on his power and what he could do with this power rather than what he does in the now, which is nothing, uh, you know, threatening. He just goes out and helps people. Whatever people take or see him as, that's their interpretation. There was a line in Batman v Superman where someone says that maybe he's just a guy who has powers, who's trying to help, which is basically what Superman is. He wouldn't be super if he were on Krypton. He's super because of circumstances, and he was raised a certain way, and his actions show what he's doing with those powers rather than the fear. So that's where this issue starts right here with Perry just saying that we're introduced to a new character as well, Robinson Good. This is her. And we already have the mystery of where is Lois Lane and what's happened to her. So that's again one of the points for Man of Steel. But, and this is really thrilling, I guess. Well, not thrilling, but very interesting, is the fact that Miss Good here works for maybe this guy who has some ulterior motives, and is Mole at the Daily Planet. So they're not up to any good, and that's what her name says, which is kind of obvious that somebody called like that would necessarily not be very typical villain name. But yeah, so going through to both Action 1000, right, the truth, where we see that this guy Rogol Zar claims to have destroyed Krypton. Well, it's not really the first time an alien has claimed that. The earliest one was around 1968 or 69, when we were introduced to a villain called Black Zero. So the name Black Zero has been revived recently. Let's see if I could show an image of him. As both a uh, unit, a Black Ops unit in the Kryptonian army, headed by Zod, that was back in the yeah, that was shown back in the New Krypton storyline from a few years ago, quite a while actually. And then if you're watching the show Krypton on Sci-Fi, the name of a terrorist group, but it really goes back to this villain who showed up in the late 60s and say he's the one that destroyed Krypton by actually using a bomb to restart the give me a second, sorry. Um, Sorry. So he actually went and said that yes, Krypton's core was unstable, but it sort of finally stabilized itself, and that's when he actually decided to bomb the core and restart the. Uh, I don't know if it was in Superman or in Action. Sorry for the delay. I just can't find the issue where he shows up things in. So, anyways, he actually said, he restarted the core to become unstable, and that actually blew up Krypton. So he said he was the one responsible for it, which curiously enough was not taken. It was, was completely ignored. There were a couple of issues in the late 60s that were completely ridiculous, even for ridiculous, were so weird for the Silver Age that they decided not to not to put them into canon. There's another story where apparently Superman. I'm trying to find it. Let me see. So here we go. So and we can see it. Wait. So yeah, so this is the original Black Zero, uh, who basically said he blew up Krypton. Uh, so again, the idea of some alien saying that he's responsible for the destruction of Krypton is not necessarily new. Not very common, but not really new. Um, so when I saw this, like people were like, "Oh, why are they doing this? Why are they bringing this up? Why are they trying to reinvent the history of Krypton?" And to me, like, oh, another. This isn't exactly new. I think there was like another alien who claimed to have destroyed Krypton as well. That showed up in an issue of Supergirl back in the 80s. At least claimed to. I don't remember that story very well. I do remember reading it online a while back. So, anyways, so as we can see though, the story in Action Comics number 1000 starts. It's a big brawl that introduces this villain, and he just, I mean, basically he just goes through like destroying the car building and landing in a diner where these two women, which as I understand are actually going to are new characters, supporting characters, are sitting. I mean, they're like the only two in the diner in the restaurant, and they sort of get this into the like this little weird conversation as they're trying to protect Superman from whatever or whoever uh, caused the actually beaten this badly. And they do have like this really awkward conversation, which in my opinion is very natural in the sense that either they crack and freeze from doing anything, or they just go into some sort of inane conversation about Superman shorts, and and try to keep their cool in this very tragic situation. So you know the thing about about uh, Ragzal, what's his name again? Ragzar is that he's more powerful than Kryptonians. I mean, he easily dispatches Supergirl twice. He's got Superman pretty much knocked out silly. I mean, he keeps on fighting, but it's just against impossible odds. And it kind of reminds me a bit. It kind of reminds me a bit of something I like read online uh, years ago in the message boards, where somebody complained about villains being stronger than Superman, even though Superman is stronger, or at least he's the strongest. He's like super strong, like But that doesn't mean that there are people that are stronger or aliens that are stronger than Superman. I mean, he's strong because he's on Earth. And the whole the yellow sun and the gravity and everything that makes Superman super is just relative to other people being stronger than Superman. I always thought that was a stupid argument. I mean, Doomsday did kill Superman, uh, and so yeah, I'm but like I said, really interesting in seeing what Bendis does. Now we're with these two issues, we just got like a little taste of not just Man of Steel that's going at the end of the month, but what his ongoing storylines are going to be for Action and Superman. Obviously, the main thing that stands out right now is the Man of Steel stuff. The missing Lois Lane, in part dealing with Ragor Soul, Ragor Zar, as well. But at least, so I really like that Man of Steel is starting with like a huge mystery, like where is Lois Lane and John? What happened to them? So that's a really good hook. But I think the stuff that we really have to look that goes a little beyond Man of Steel is what these two are up to. Bendis, of course, has said on various interviews and online that Superman will be dealing in, I believe, Action Comics with the Metropolis side of things. That there's this whole gang, this criminal mastermind that's been working for years under Superman's radar. So it looks like this dude, he is super interesting what's going on at the Daily Planet. I mean, she's a mole apparently, though she is sort of legitimate. Alice, she seems like a legit journalist from the Star City Sentinel. which is kind of interesting since Star City is actually Seattle. If you've been keeping up with Green Arrow, you know that. Uh, but yeah, so they're just teases for the larger stuff that's coming, uh, both in Manasol, which is like the most immediate thing, and then sort of setting up at least some of the early issues of Action and Superman. So I mean, I know people are kind of nervous about what's coming up. Some people don't like Bendis, which is fine. I like Bendis. You know, I've read. I mean, I like his early stuff. When I mean early, like his early mainstream stuff from Marvel, which I mean, he started doing work for Marvel about a year after I started becoming a regular comic book reader. So I read his Ultimate Spider-Man, uh, read a large portion of Alias, and I mean a large portion of it because either that book was selling really well or my shop under ordered because I collect the first few issues, but I have a few issues missing, and then I couldn't find any more for a large chunk of the run. But I read that. I read his Daredevil. The only arc that I didn't like from his Daredevil run was the Murdoch Papers, which he tried something different with the writing, which was very frustrating for me as a reader. I read his Electro series as well. Um, so when I so I read quite a bit. I actually jumped from Marvel before. Well, I actually dropped Avengers before he came into writing it and doing the Avengers disassembled story. Actually dropped Avengers in the middle of Geoff John's run. Not because I didn't like his run, but because I needed to cut on books at that time. So I'm confident that we're gonna get some really good Superman stories. I feel especially with this story uh, from the with this story from from Destination Number Zero, uh, that he definitely gets the characters. I like the mystery. That's so. Anyways, I'm kind of going off, rambling on, but yeah. So those are the books. Sorry, it's been what almost 40, almost 50 minutes. 48, 47. I'm reading here. So I'll end it. Saying as I always end these things. Until next time, keep smiling.